Hi, I'm David Taylor. I'm an attorney with Twin Falls Estate Planning, and today we're going to talk about some of the cost with the plan by design. So when I talk about plan by design, this is what I'm talking about. The state of Idaho has a plan for you. It's a one-size-fits-almost-no-one plan that involves lawyers, judges, court fees, and so forth, which we're about to see. So unless you have done your estate plan, maybe you did a will, maybe you did a trust. If you have not done those things, then you are subject to the government's plan. And doesn't that just make you feel nice and warm and fuzzy? So let's talk about cost. There's a few areas. This is not just for when you pass away. This also involves when you're living. And the first one is HIPAA. So when I say HIPAA, I'm talking about healthcare. I'm talking about someone who can make a healthcare decision for you when you can't. If you don't have a plan for that, then who knows what your healthcare desires are? What happens if you are in a coma? What happens if you are in a vegetative state? What are your wishes and desires? We don't know, so we make it up, or we try and do what we can to abide by what we think are your wishes. So it's hard to put a dollar amount value on that because we're talking about your life. We don't know what that means to you, but sure that your life is very valuable, and wouldn't you want to plan in case something happens where you can't speak for yourself? The second one involves another situation when you're living, and that is called a guardianship. So if you get to a point where you can no longer make decisions for yourself, Alzheimer's, dementia, perhaps maybe you were severely injured in an automobile accident, any one of these things where you can no longer handle your finances, you can no longer handle your quote-unquote person, meaning you can't make day-to-day decisions, that has to be proven in a court of law before someone else can make a decision for you, and that is called a guardianship hearing. Now, the guardianship hearing involves a few things. If we're looking at an attorney cost to file the paperwork, you're maybe $1,500, but that's just the start of a guardianship hearing because we have to prove you are quote-unquote incompetent. And that involves medical research, that involves health and welfare who comes in and plays chess with you, all sorts of things that are not very pleasant. And I spoke with a client who said that the last guardianship hearing they had for an autistic son was $5,000 when all was said and done. Again, that's not my fee. That's with all the other fees included in having a guardianship hearing. And that was for someone who was autistic, and it was pretty easy. In fact, they went to court, and within about 3 seconds, the judge said he's going to be deemed incompetent. So it didn't take long at the hearing, but it was all the build-up getting there. The last one is probate. You probably heard that a few times if you see my videos, but probate is generally, when you pass away, how do we distribute your assets? And it has to go through a court of law. There are some exceptions, but for the majority of us, especially if you own real property, you are going to be subject, your assets are going to be subject to probate, meaning a loved one needs to go and petition with the court, there needs to be a bunch of paperwork and so forth, and here's the cost that I have for probate, assuming that this is uncontested, meaning no one comes in to put up a fight. It's roughly $2,000 just for the attorney's cost in order to do all of the paperwork. Now that number can vary. If you, for example, are married, you might be looking closer to about close to $3,000 for it. But the thing of it is, like I said early on, that's if it's uncontested. When we're in probate court, it's a lawsuit, and anyone could, at some point, just write a note to the judge and say, I object, and now all of a sudden, the fees go up. And it can be very costly. I've seen probate bills in the range of $20,000 or more, and all we're doing is trying to settle disputes, trying to interpret what the person wanted us to do. So, that's what you're looking at as far as cost if you don't have a plan for design. And we'll talk about this in another video, but these are some pretty high numbers. I mean, we're close to about the $10,000 range if something were to happen to you and if you don't have a plan, whereas a really good estate plan would be about a third of the cost. So if you want to come in and learn more about what the plan by design has for you, then come in and talk to me. And my name again is David Taylor of Twin Falls Estate Planning. I only see a few people a week, but set up an appointment and let's talk.